Well, hello everyone, and welcome to One Civil Law. And for today's stream, we're going to respond to an ongoing X thread of a former fan who I'm going to have to ban from my DMs because they're not getting it and they're trying to emotionally manipulate me and they're trying to guilt me and they're trying every basically emotional tactic known to man to get me to try to not apply the law as best as I can understand it. Now, before we begin this stream, I'd like to, of course, emphasize once again that just because I'm doing my best doesn't necessarily mean I'm getting it right. I could be getting the law wrong. That is always a possibility, and that's why I try to listen to other people and reflect and think about things because, if someone can make a legal argument, if they can show me a legal reason why I'm making a mistake, if they can convince me I'm wrong on the law on a technical matter, I'm of course happy to hear it. And in my stream last night with Joe Neerman, for example, we had some discussions where he made some points and I was like, oh, okay, or some things. And I'm like, okay, maybe there's a point here, maybe there's something here or whatever, right? So it's like, okay. And, I just tried, but he didn't really convince me fundamentally, but there were some points along the way where I tried to think, basically. So that's basically what we're doing. And this person's just going for straight emotional appeal, and that isn't working. And this is also not distinct from the fact that you can't troll me emotionally. You can obviously get me mad or angry, but you can't impact my legal analysis by doing so. So just chat will sometimes troll me, and sometimes I'll lose my temper, but I'll never change my legal analysis. I never have. I'll get angry, I'll get shouty, I'll get upset that about what people are saying, but I won't change my legal analysis. You can't emotionally manipulate me out of my legal opinion. All right. So, anyways, we're gonna see this thing, and no names, of course, because I'm not here to dox anybody. But this person has been messaging me for a very, very long time about many other issues, including the Nick Rekieta thing. And this is where the messages start on this issue. So we turn our attention to March 13th, where we have the first message on the subject, where this person starts with a YouTube clip of Rubio in which, listen to the press go quiet as Rubio makes whatever. Right. So Rubio's making some statement about this. This is all relating to the Khalil case, this Columbia grad student guy green card. This is all relating to this guy, okay? And again, keep our eye on the ball, right? This is a guy with a green card that comes with a status. I'm not talking about illegal immigrants. I'm not talking about people with visas. I'm talking about people with green cards, right? That comes with a particular status that I'm going to have to apply as best as I can apply it, okay? Breakfast? Yes, Nate, we can have breakfast after this, but let me get through the stream and we can have breakfast. That'll be fine. All right, so let me do this. All right, so this person gave me a clip of this YouTube thing and said, you failed to take into account his illegal activities, referring to Mahmoud Khalil, the grad student Colombian guy. All right, you failed to take into account his illegal activities. So I said, has he been convicted of those illegal activities? And for that matter, felonies involving moral turpitude. If not, I did not forget, because at the time, my best understanding of relevant law was the green card could be only revoked for those reasons. Maybe that's not correct, but that was what my understanding was. And it's like, and even if he could be expelled for other crimes, has he been convicted of any crimes? If he hasn't been convicted of any crimes, innocent till proven guilty. Last time I checked, right? That's what I thought would be the correct. So I'm like, has he been convicted of anything? It's like, if not, I haven't forgotten anything. Okay. All right. And then they say, this person says, I don't think this is a First Amendment case. I agree with Professor Dershowitz. There were illegal activities he engaged in, and you can see videos of him in Colombia and elsewhere. They're still an X. Well, as we sort of discussed last night on Joe Neerman, that's not the government's case. The government has not alleged as part of its deportation proceedings that he's committed crimes. That's not their case. They're saying other things. So it's like, first of all, they're not even claiming that as part of their deportation. Second of all, even if they were saying it, I'd still be back to innocent till proven guilty. So it's like, okay, there are videos of him still on X. Yeah, so what? Has he been convicted yet? Maybe it'd be trivial to convict him. Go do that. Get back to me. We'll talk. Convict him. Throw him in jail. Whatever. That'd be fine. Let's go apply the law one step at a time, and let's do that. That'd be great. All right. That's what I think. So, anyways, so they're still on X, and then this person says, "Watch Alan Dershowitz explain." This was a video where Dershowitz discussed more the First Amendment and distinguished the case from a Stokey Nazi case he argues years ago, which is a pure First Amendment case. Okay. All right. Mahmoud Khalil and his band of pro-Hamas protesters assaulted a Jewish student, blocked students from school facilities, vandalized school property, spread flyers around which glorified the massacre of 1,200 Jews, imitated and discriminated against Jewish students, which violates Title VI, and openly supports in every way a U.S.-designated terrorist government, Hamas, which is a federal offense. Cool. Great. If he did those things, prosecute him. Prosecute him. Charge him with conspiracy. Charge him as an accessory. Charge him as the principal. Charge him with all those things. That'd be great. Do those things. Do those things and get back to me. Right? Yeah. Okay. Also, the indoctrinated students, Jewish students who have been marinating in Jew hate at Columbia for years, are the saddest part of all. Okay. They have been taught to hate themselves, their fellow Jews, and their country of origin by both pro-Hamas students and pro-Hamas BOS professors. Yeah, okay, I have no problem with that opinion either. That's fine. I mean, if your argument is that, the students at Columbia and many universities have been like brainwashed and stuff like that, I understand that. If you believe that they have been, if you believe there's violations of Title VI, I understand that. That all makes sense to me. But those, of course, those are different legal issues. Those are different legal issues that we have to contend with and deal with in a logical way. So without that, we don't really have anything to work with. So that's what I think about that. Pressing on. New documentary shows alarming connection between Hamas and campus protesters. Filmmaker, October 8th. Okay. American Immigration Council expedited removal explainer. Okay. All right. And then I respond. If there were illegal activities, then charge him and convict him according to the law. Seems right to me. That's an entirely separate issue, in my opinion, from whether he can be deported, particularly before he's actually convicted of those offenses. Right. That's right. To my mind, that's correct. Like, if he committed a crime, convict him. That's not the same thing as whether or not he can be deported as a result of those things. Those are not one and the same thing. So, prosecute him, convict him, get back to me. Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I'm thinking. And again, of course, the government didn't say any of these things in its document of removal. They didn't make any of these arguments. They didn't make any of these arguments. So you're making arguments even the government's not making. And even if they did make it, I still don't think it would be sufficient, in my legal opinion. Nicholas Misty says you don't need a conviction to be deportable. Well, you would need to prove it to some sort of standard. You can't just make it up. So if the right standard isn't beyond a reasonable doubt, then it might be preponderance of the evidence. And again, is that true for a green card holder? And if not, why not? And again, if I'm getting the law wrong, make a legal argument. It's like, no, you're getting the law wrong because of this particular statute or this particular case. And then I could go look it up and I could be like, oh, okay. And then I would revise my opinion accordingly. But, cite the provision, cite the case, make the argument. But this is my best legal opinion. So that's what I have to say. Yeah. Okay. Someone said, there's a false controversy surrounding the arrest and hopefully deportation of Mahmoud Khalil. All right, great. This person said, I know what you said, which is why I'm sharing the evidence, why you're wrong. Okay, I've always liked you, Kurt. You see the emotional manipulation starting? You see the emotional manipulation? Yeah. One of your best traits, and that I look for in people, is that they can admit when they're wrong when more information is learned. If the information is legally operative, sure. Of course, if I get the law wrong, or I misunderstand the law, then I'm always happy to correct myself. It was how I was raised. I see it as a sign of good character. Professor Dershowitz was willing to entertain this case as different from Stokey, and I said it would be very fact specific. This is truly serious, and there are facts you may not be aware of. Are these facts alleged in the complaint? The Muslim Brotherhood is the American Hamas and CAIR, and its public relations arm, and funnels money to Hamas and Hezbollah. Currently, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is considering designating the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, as it is a problem in most Arab countries as well. Egypt, Libya, and support in Turkey today. Okay, I mean, first of all, even if all those things are true, that doesn't necessarily get you to the end of the page either. You know, if you were a U.S. citizen, you know, that doesn't necessarily, you can't be obviously deported. That doesn't make any sense. You can't deport a U.S. citizen. Okay. Can you deport someone who's a green card for these reasons based on wishes and horses? Do you have to prove any of these things? Do you have to show any of these things to be true? Do you have to do those things? Okay, that's what I think. Right. Okay, fine. Nicholas Misty says it goes before an immigration judge. That's due process. I disagree. Moving on. But that's okay. I'm only a lawyer trying my best to understand the law. Again, if you have more precise case citations, if you have more precise legal arguments, let me know. But I don't think that's correct in my best legal opinion. Cool. Great. All right. What else we got? Currently, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is considered. Okay, we read that part. An explanatory memorandum from the archives of the Muslim Brotherhood America, Center for Security Policy. Okay, noted. You should also read the exhibit from the Holland trial. Again, why are we referencing things in other cases? That doesn't make any sense. You should read this document in this other pleading, in this other case. Why would I do that? Why would a judge do that? That doesn't make any sense, right? If I'm going to try to adjudicate this like a judge would try to adjudicate it, which is how I usually do it, I try to adjudicate it based on what's filed in court, right? If it's not filed in court, it doesn't exist. There are no other cases, right? It's a constructed universe unto itself. Tell me within the domain and go from there, right? Yeah. Okay. Which was an unindicted co-conspirator. Oh, they're unindicted co-conspirator. Oh, that definitely means something legally not. In some case that I don't care about because it's not this case. Rex says, I don't care. They've got to go. Okay, Rex, if you don't care about the law, you are watching the wrong channel. I am a legal analyst. That is what I do. I'm a lawyer doing my best to apply the law. If you're like, I don't care about the law, I just want to deport them, you are watching the wrong channel. I do legal analysis. It's what I do. Nathan, lawyer for $5 says this is dumb. None of these arguments are being made by the government. Right, that too. People want specific outcome and don't care about facts or process. Seems that way. But I apply the legal standards evenly, without passion or prejudice. I apply it the best as I can, given my best understanding of the law. Great. That's what I do. Yeah. Moving on. Rebecca Zakorski from 499 said, good morning from Clemson. Hello, Clemson. Sorry you seem to be having a bad day of chat. Hope it gets better. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Research Hama Hamdalin and her parents. We know about the bathroom server of Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. How does that have anything to do with the issue at hand? How does Secretary Clinton's email server in her bathroom have anything to do with the issue at hand? It doesn't. Why are we talking about irrelevant things? It's dumb. Valerie Jarrett was the architect of the Iran deal, which posed an existential threat to Israel, which is why Trump ended it. What are we talking about again? I thought we were trying to talk about this guy with the green card. What the hell are we doing now? We've moved on to other topics. We're squirreling. Stay your eye on the ball, man. Stay your eye on the ball. Nick Sherman in chat says, I thought I seen the Secretary of State has blanket ability to rescind green cards. Is that incorrect? Yeah, I think it's challengeable. I don't know that it's correct. The Secretary of State thinks he has authority. He cited a provision that seems to be pretty broad, but then the government said it was because of speech-related reasons and all other things, and so there are legal issues at play. So the Secretary of State might be wrong. It is a legal issue that, yeah, that's my best legal understanding, is what I think. Jarrett brought the Muslim Brotherhood into Obama's White House, and he placed them in our agencies and gave them security clearances. I don't know how that has anything to do with anything. I don't know how that has anything to do with the issue at hand. This goes much deeper than you realize, and it's not a free speech case. I get offensive speech is protected under the First Amendment, ... Do you? Yeah. Because he lied on his green card? Cool. Great. Right. I understand, Kara. If he lied on his green card and they prove it to preponderance of the evidence, then cool. No problem. I understand that. I think the lie probably has to be material. I think it has to matter. So it has to be a material lie. But yeah, if he lied in a material way and they can prove it to clear and convincing, cool. Revoke his green card and deport him. No problem. And that's this very specific claim with a very specific legal basis, and I'm not denying that legal basis. Go do that. Although, of course, at the moment, the government has a problem because they've already brought his speech into it. They've already referred to his support of Hamas and other things like that. They've brought his advocacy into it. And so they've complicated what could have been a simple legal issue. Right? If they just stuck to he lied on his form, this would have been a lot simpler. But the government brought other things into it, and now they've complicated their own case, and that's their problem. But that's where we're at right now. If someone had a judicial hearing scheduled and was unable to attend because they'd been abducted, isn't that denial of due process? Assuming that the hearing is not rescheduled and they don't have an opportunity to attend at a different time, then sure. And also the term abducted is an inflammatory term, and you should probably pick something more emotionally neutral. This person says, I'm Eric Henley's chat moderator. We discuss free speech and his rules for chat. I do my best to adhere his wishes. YouTube has rules we must follow too. If we cannot deport terrorists, assumption and some assumption of fact, who hate America and our American values and have lied on a visa and green card, prove it, we have a huge problem in this country. Well, prove he's a terrorist. Prove that he lied on his green card. Don't show the basis of that claim. And also, you're the one who the government's the one who threw the First Amendment into this. And that's a problem. All right, pressing on. I'm upset. I'm a bit upset because I do my best to apply the law and people don't listen. Or they just argue with me and they try to emotionally manipulate me. These people just don't hate Jews and seek destruction of Israel and a second Holocaust. They seek to create a North American caliphate. Read the explanatory memorandum. They have a long-term plan and they're very far along. Holy shit. Holy shit. Didn't the Supreme Court rule that deportation is not a legal punishment? Yes, it is not a punishment. Wouldn't that render most of the arguments moot? No, it doesn't. No. The fact that it's not a punishment does not render the arguments moot. No. Okay, moving on. All right. And then Megyn Kelly did an amazing job covering the Mahmoud Khalil story. If you haven't watched the podcast, you should watch the entire thing. Watch Megyn Kelly takes on Paris Faction Week, Mahmoud Khalil, Sarah McBride, Senator Ellison Stolken, and more. The post, it's Ramadan. Trump just delivered an early gift. The Middle East actually what it wants. What the fuck ever. What about sending someone home? What about it? You mean deporting them? That's what we're talking about. We've been talking about deporting them. Nate, the lawyer for $5 says government equals your speech is the reason we're deporting you. Yeah, the government seemed to say that. Yes. Defendant said my speech is protected. This is a First Amendment case because of the government. Yeah, I mean, the government has complicated the posture. Yeah, they've complicated the posture because they went after him. At least according to them, they made statements that seem to say they're going after him because of his speech. And so they have complicated the posture. Yeah, that's a problem for them. So there are legal complications because of their stupid. Yep. I hope I get some coffee. I'm going to get coffee. As soon as the stream is over, me and Nate are going to get some waffles or something. It's going to be great. Someone said, you'll never understand this conflict without understanding the October 4th women from whatever intended peace conference, whatever. I don't know how that has anything to do with anything. I don't know how women on October the 4th of 2023 attending a peace conference has anything to do with Mahmoud Khalil and what he did or didn't do in Colombia, or at Colombia, rather. The Democrats have decided to die on the Hill supporting a Hamas terrorist who hates America and the Western values. Well, not for nothing, but one of the Western values typically is due process, but I digress. Also, one of our Western values is also freedom of speech. I further digress, I suppose. So I respond to all, yeah, they're really pulling on the heartstrings. I know, Nate, this is what my entire stream is titled, right? It's like you can't emotionally manipulate me out of this. You can't shame me into it. You can't guilt me into it. You can't emotionally manipulate it out of it. If I'm wrong on the law, show me why. I'll correct myself. I do it all the time. But no one's convinced me yet. Not legally. And they're trying other tactics and none of them are working. Like, for example, Joe said last night, this procedurally might have to go through the administrative judge first. And I'm like, that makes sense. And then there was an issue of, well, because he's arrested, does that change it? And there was that one site in that statute that seemed to imply it didn't matter, and the judge is saying it does matter. I'm like, yeah, maybe this has to go through the administrative judge first. Maybe that's right. Maybe it's premature for the habeas. But that was because he made a precise legal argument. I'm like, maybe procedurally we're just doing this wrong. That's a precise legal argument. That's why I kept open to that possibility. Yeah. All right, let's see what else we got. Again, if he's committed criminal acts, then prosecute him according to law. Convict him in the court according to law. That's what courts are for. Innocent until proven guilty appears to apply here. So until he's convicted, he's not committed a crime in the eyes of the law. That would be typically correct. I'm not really sure I have anything more to say about this subject. Yeah, okay. Green card status comes with rules. Yeah, again, we have to distinguish. We're not talking about an illegal immigrant. We're not talking about someone here on a visa. We're not talking about the Venezuelans who are deported, who don't have that status. We're talking about green card. Green card comes with status. It comes with rules. It comes with protections. Maybe it shouldn't, but it does in the best of my opinion. Yeah. All right. You don't need a conviction to be deportable. Read the statute. They're playing things that make someone deportable that are not convictions. Well, I read the statute, but when it says things, does it mean convicted of crime or not? And then even if it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, what is the standard? If it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, it would probably be clear and convincing evidence. It can't just be the government just makes up stuff. They have to make some kind of showing, I would think. So if it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, if it's not a conviction, what is it? It can't just be they just say things. It has to be more than that. Right? It's clear and convincing. Yeah, that sounds right to me. Okay, fine. If you want to say it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, it's clear and convincing. Cool. I buy that. I buy it. Great. So he doesn't have to be convicted according to beyond a reasonable doubt. He only has to be shown clear and convincing. Okay, cool. All right, go do that, and then we'll talk. And you have to present evidence to do that. And you can't say national security. That's not evidence. You have to present evidence to prove the case. So yeah, that's what I think. Anyways, pressing on. I said I know of no law that allows for green card status to be revoked based on mere accusation of criminal wrongdoing, even if the accusation is coming from the Attorney General or Secretary of State. Accusation alone is not sufficient. Go to a criminal court and prove they committed the act, and then prove the act is a basis for which to revoke his green card status. That's right. Or, clear and convincing evidence or something else. I mean, yeah, but go and prove it. There are videos of him all over X. Did you see him? Yeah, the videos all over X is definitely the same thing as going to court and proving your case. That's definitely how that happens. That's definitely one and the same thing. Yeah. Jewish students on campus can be as young as 17. Oh, okay. Now we're trying to, bring the fact that they're particularly vulnerable into it. You're not being sympathetic to the children. These are children. It's like, I don't care if they're 5. I don't care if there's some 5-year-olds at Columbia. It doesn't matter. It's the law, still the law. They were terrorized on campus, and you can't understand that. I can understand they were, harassed, belittled. I can understand a lot of things. I can understand their rights might have been violated under Title VI or some other title. I can understand that there might have been some criminal acts. I can understand a lot of things. But, keep my eye on the ball about what we're talking about at any one time, right? Yeah. Yeah. You don't see how the leader created a hostile environment within the meaning of Title VI? Sure, maybe. Go do that. We'll talk. Wow, I just learned something about you. The emotional manipulation is real. Wow, I just learned something about you. You're trying to shame me. You're trying to manipulate me. It's not working. And then they say, watch as Mahmoud Khalil student group violently takes over the Hamilton Columbia group. Cool. Prove it in court. Get back to me. Is this enough activity besides speech for you? And then I say, no. Innocent until proven guilty. Or, in the alternative, clear and convincing evidence. Prosecute him, convict him, get back to me. Yeah, go prove it in court. Go prove it in court. Provide evidence, prove it in court to the relevant standard, get back to me. Is this enough? Nope. No, that's not how it works. More than that. If you have a problem with me applying innocent until guilty across the board for those accused of crimes, then I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. There's a difference for non-citizens. Oh, okay. And yes, I do have a huge issue with those who fail to comprehend that these people want to create a North American caliphate and have been working towards their goal for decades, and Biden sped things up. They hate American and our Western values and want Sharia law. Well, holy shit, dude. Way to poison the well. Wow. I mean, come on. How many buzzwords can you throw into this sentence? How many buzzwords can you throw into this sentence? I'm trying to do a legal analysis over here, and you're talking about the fact they want to bring a North American caliphate, which once again, for a U.S. citizen, would be completely lawful. If you're a U.S. citizen and you want to try to bring about a North American caliphate, that would be lawful. That is valid freedom of speech. You can advocate for those kinds of things. Is it different because he's a green card holder? Not in a way that seems materialized right now. Yeah. Nate Delore says, for $5, remember, government must prove its allegations. Right now, they've proven nothing. Funny how we just believe them without question now. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Wasn't one of the main complaints relating to January 6th, for example, that people were not being given due process? Oh, yeah. But he's not a citizen. Well, he's a green card. That comes with status, man. Yeah. Where were we? Look at EU countries. Will it be like them if we allow them to abuse our open society? You should learn about toxic empathy. This has nothing to do with empathy. This has nothing to do with empathy. If you think I have empathy for Khalil, You radically are misunderstanding what I'm trying to do. If you think this is an issue, if you think this is emotion on my part, if you think this is emotion, if you think this is empathy, if you think this is sympathy, you radically are misunderstanding what I'm trying to do. This has nothing to do with emotion. This has nothing to do with empathy or sympathy of any description. This has to apply with. This has to deal with trying to apply the laws as best as I can in a neutral and even fashion. That's what I do. Yeah. Also, the person said you lack empathy and you have toxic empathy. Yeah, they can't make up their mind. Like, let me insult you for not having empathy. Let me insult you for having too much empathy. Yeah. These terrorists invaded us, and we not only have a right, but a duty to toss them out. Well, if they're in fact terrorists, prove it in court and so forth and so on, and let me know. And provide evidence of that. And, then we'll talk and we'll get to that. But, right now, and also don't say it's because of speech, all that stuff, right? Yeah. Why are there legal issues if it's not punishment? Because when they say it's not punishment, they mean it's not criminal punishment. Just because it's not criminal doesn't mean that you don't have rights. That would be dumb. It would be like me saying that, if I'm going to revoke your driver's license, would be revoking your driver's license unto itself be punishment? Not necessarily, but that doesn't mean the government can just do anything at any time. That's not how it works. The fact it's not criminal doesn't mean that the government can just do anything, particularly when they're doing it for forbidden reasons. As I was sort of talking about with Joe last night, they might be able to do it for good reasons. They might be able to do it for no reason, but they can't do it for bad reasons. If they're doing it for bad reasons, you have a problem, right? Yeah. Yeah. You've demonstrated you're clueless about Hamas and Hezbollah and don't know the Muslim Brotherhood as their American brethren. The manipulation is very, very real. Then they provide me a policy from Center for Security Policy. These are not mere students. They are terrorists with an agenda to change the very nature of our country and replace it with Constitution with Sharia law. If they're terrorists, prove it. Get back to me. Prove it. Get back to me. I don't say this or mean to be insulting, but you're in over your head. Uh-huh. I'm in over my head. Uh-huh. The link above is from the explanatory memorandum from the Archives of the Muslim Brotherhood in America, CSP Press, May 25, 2013. The memo constitutes a Rosetta Stone for the Muslim Brotherhood, its goals, modus operandi, and its infrastructure in America. It's arguably the single most important vehicle for understanding a secretive organization and should therefore be required reading for policymakers and the public alike. Well, once again, unless it's in the case file, it doesn't exist with respect to this case. That is true for every case. If it's not in this case file, it doesn't exist. Every case is a constructed universe unto itself. That's how it works. You only have what's in the case that's in the case. That's how I've rolled every single time I've ever done a legal discussion in the history of ever on this channel, right? And I make this point repeatedly over and over and over and over and over, right? Unless it's in the case file, it doesn't exist. The judge is only going to consider what's in the case file. Duh. Right? The judge is only going to consider what's in the case file. So is this link and memorandum in the case file? If not, it doesn't exist within the confines of this case. Holy shit. We at the Center of Security Policy feel it's important to understand, for better understand, and then be able to successfully contend with those that have attempted to destroy or subvert our way of life. $5 from Nate the lawyer. Taking your license is a punishment. Denying a permit is a punishment, but the government can't take it away for any reason like race, sex, religion. Exactly so. Exactly so. They might be able to do it for a good reason. You have DUIs. They might even theoretically be able to do it for no reason, but they can't do it for bad reasons. There are certain protected reasons. It's like being fired from a job. It's like you are an at-will employee, so I can fire you for any reason, except certain reasons. Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? I can fire you for good reasons. I can fire you for no reasons, but I can't fire you for bad reasons. Yeah, that's exactly close. Yeah, Kurt, unsurprisingly, is not a huge fan of the Muslim Brotherhood. So spending time explaining why they're bad is a waste of time. Yeah, it is definitely not the problem. I assure you that I think that I have a strong opinion of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's definitely not the problem that I think that they're good at doing good things. That is definitely not the issue. I'm not sure that's what you need to spend time on. As making our nation's enemies threat doctrines available is a key part of our educational efforts, we're pleased to present the blueprint for the Muslim Brotherhood in America, known as an explanatory memorandum on the general strategic goal for the group in North America or in America's largest terrorist prosecution in U.S. federal court. You know what? That's cool. I'm glad there was the largest terrorist prosecution in federal court. That's cool. Great. I like that. Go prosecute the terrorists. That sounds like fun. Go do that. You go do that. Prosecute the terrorists. Go get them. Go get them. That'd be great. Do that. Do that. That'd be fine. Yeah. This is not some thought experiment. And then I just say, I'm a lawyer conducting a legal analysis. I provide my legal opinion based on my best understanding of the legal issues at play. I'll continue to do so. It's what I do. Lol. Sorry, but you're totally clueless as to what's actually at stake and is happening. That's exciting. That brings us to the end of that thread, and we will no longer be having any communication with that person. It was fun and all, but it's over. It must have been love, but it's over now. Must have been true, but it's out somehow. Must have been love, it's over now. Do, 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 do. How do I ban someone on Twitter? Do I have to remove them from my friends, or what do I do? So anyways, that brings us to the end of that subject. So don't ever message me again and go away. So that brings us to the end of that stream. And yeah, I hope, don't try to emotionally manipulate me. It's just a waste of your time. So that's it. So I'm going to go have breakfast with Nate now. I think we're going to get some eggs, and we'll go do that, and it'll be fun. I've been Uncivil Law. Until later, my friends, I hope all is well. Cheers for now, my friends, and goodbye.